Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. In this mock career counseling session, a newly minted psychotherapist is contemplating starting a private practice. The counselor says, "Congratulations on passing your licensure exam." And the client says, "Thank you. I'm good at going to expensive school, but now I need to make money." The counselor says, "Are you clear on whether you should look for a job or be in private practice?" The client says, I don't know whether I should pursue both simultaneously or not." Counselor says, "Only some people have the bandwidth to do both." Client says, "I care a lot about work-life balance, so I think I better focus on one. I think I'd like to try to succeed in private practice, and if that doesn't work, then try to get a stable job in government, maybe some community mental health agency." Counselor says, "Okay, well, what are you clear and not clear about regarding your private practice?" Client says, "Well, with terrible traffic and cost of rent, I know I want to work from home." The counselor said, "Are you clear on whether you want to be a generalist or a specialist?" Client said, "Maybe a generalist. At this point, I can't afford to turn down any clients." Counselor said, "I noted you said maybe. If you specialize, it's actually easier to market and to avoid the imposter syndrome, which is common among new graduates." The client says, "Yeah, I suffer from that, but I don't know what I'd specialize in." The counselor says, "Well, for starters, would you rather work with adults, kids, or both?" The client says, "I think people my age, late 20s, early 30s. The counselor says, "Is there a sort of problem they'd have that you'd like to help them with and feel you'd be good at?" The client says, "It may be relationship issues or depression or anxiety, I'm not sure." The counselor says, "Most new graduates need at least a bit of additional training to specialize effectively, but assuming you got that, might you have a natural talent and or a stronger interest in one of those three?" Client says, "Probably relationship issues, because I've dealt with a lot of them myself and helped my friends." The counselor says, "A plus for that is that relationships are a core issue for many people in their 20s and 30s. It helps to get even narrower. Do you think it matters if you focused on straight couples, LGBT couples, interracial couples, or some other specialty?" The client says, "I guess straight couples, but now that I think about it, I watched this movie, The Hours, about a sex surrogate who specialized in physically disabled people. I wouldn't want to be a surrogate, but I like the idea of counseling disabled people around sex." The counselor says, "That's a nice narrow niche, so you'd have less competition and could highly target your marketing. Plus, it's a manageable size specialty, so that in a reasonable amount of time, you could gain real competence." The client says, "How'd you get trained for that?" "How do you get trained for that?" The counselor says, "I'm not sure. Let's go to the computer and see what we can learn from a little Google searching." And they do the searching together, and they learn that a respected certification called ASECT requires 160 hours of training and 300 hours of supervision. The client says, "I think I'd be up for doing that." The counselor says, "It's feeling a bit premature to make that decision. After all, at the beginning of the session, you weren't sure whether you even wanted to specialize. We have to stop for today, but how do you feel about doing some internet research on sex therapy with disabled people, and maybe one or more other specialties? You thought you might want to specialize less narrowly, for example, straight couples in their 20s and 30s. And if the internet research piques your interest in one specialty or another, maybe search Yelp for a highly rated practitioner in that specialty and see if you could get an informational interview with him or her. How does that feel, really?" The client says, "It feels good. I want to do that." The client says, "I would caution you against premature foreclosure. There's an understandable tendency to want to come to a decision and get closure, but after you've done that research, take a little time to let all the ideas and feelings ferment. Sometimes an idea can ferment into fine wine, other times into vinegar. An extra couple of weeks of fermentation are probably worth it." The client says, "That's kind of a relief." The counselor says, "Does your intuition tell you that our next session should be in 1, 2, or 3 weeks?" The client says, 2, I think. "That'll give me enough time to do the research and allow for some fermentation time, but not so long that I lose momentum." The counselor says, Sounds good. Let me check my calendar and see what I have in that time frame. By the way, do you want our next session in person, by phone, or Skype?" The client says, "I'm glad we did our first session in person, but the traffic's a nightmare. So do you think we'd lose anything by trying it on Skype?" Counselor says, "Not at all. When I started out as a career counselor, I was sure there'd be a difference. But now, frankly, even phone sessions are just about as effective as in person, and I found that Skype sessions are fully as effective." The client says, "Cool. Let's try at least one session on Skype and see how it goes." Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. Feel free to give us a thumbs, yeah, that too. A thumbs up, or if needed, a thumbs down. Write a comment, hit the share button and share on your social media, or subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.